senior vice president was a female.
Okay.
And I had VPs who were female. So I had a chance to see that. And I also had a chance to be mentored by several of the women and really learned that it's possible, to be a successful female in a male-dominated world. So in our family model, at some point when we had relocated, my job started requiring me to do more travel.
Okay.
And we decided that he would be a stay-at-home dad. He said he was okay with being a stay-at-home dad. I was okay with it, but in the Black community, it was not widely accepted. Like it was the reverse, right?
Yeah,
Like the man
yeah.
is supposed to work and the woman stays home, and here it was, he was staying home, and he was very good. He cooked, he took care of the girls. I still had to do the hair, okay? He never got the hair right, but that was, and there was a bit of like we didn't talk about it much,
Yeah.
but as I got mentored by women in corporate America, I found out that a lot of women, executive women, also had stay-at-home dads, like men who, gave up their career,
Okay.
and that was the choice that they made.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 13 of the Dairy Mom podcast. My name is Diana Adair. I am the founder of the Dairy Mom. We inspire, educate and empower mothers who may be struggling to reclaim their dreams or who may have temporarily set aside their ambitions due to the demands of motherhood. On the Dairy Mom podcast, we bring you powerful stories from audacious mothers around the world who defy societal expectations and harness their strength to juggle both roles of motherhood and the pursuit of their personal and professional ambitions successfully. Before we begin today's episode, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of our new subscribers and thank you to all who have been with us from the beginning. I appreciate you all very much. Today's episode is the first part of our two-part series on empowered moms inspiring leaders. Today, we are honored to have our global executive leader, Abby Knowles, join us all the way from the United States of America. Abby is formerly Vice President of Engineering, Governance and Transformation for Verizon Global Services Organization with a keen focus on growth and world-leading customer experience for the consumer group. Prior to this, Ms. Knowles led teams across the U.S. responsible for building and operating the Verizon wireless network by harnessing a culture of innovation and leveraging advanced technologies such as software-defined networks and artificial intelligence/machine learning. Ms. Knowles began her career as an engineer at Bell Atlantic in 1996 and held a number of positions in engineering, operations, and program management across networks and software. Throughout her career, she has leveraged a passion for building and operating at scale with programs such as the industry's largest drone fleet at Verizon, a $100 million national network energy transformation initiative, and recently led Verizon's largest software engineering agile transformation with the consumer group. As an industry technology leader, she serves as vice chair of the IEEE Technical Committee on Communications Quality and Reliability. She also serves on the advisory board of Archangel Ventures Incorporated. Ms. Knowles is passionate about STEM advancement for underrepresented groups and has made many contributions to organizations like National Academy Foundation and GSMA Caribbean Region. She's a sought-after inspirational keynote speaker on leadership and technology and has been a 2022 recipient of a Silver Stevie Award for Women in Business. Abby graduated from Morgan State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering and has a Master of Science degree in ITS from Johns Hopkins. She's married, has 2 adult daughters and a granddaughter, and now lives in Dallas, Texas. She recently retired from Verizon after 28 years and will be recharging before her new chapter. If you're ready for today's conversation, grab the pens and notebooks and join me as I speak to our special guest. Hello, Abby. Welcome to the Dairy Mom podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Diana. I'm blessed. Thank you. It's been a great holiday.
Right. I'm so honored to have you on our podcast today. And you are the first global executive leader that I'll be interviewing on my podcast. And I feel so honored to have you here. Today, I am interested in tapping into your wisdom. I mean, you've had years, like almost 3 decades of experience.
28, Diana. I didn't reach 3 decades.
You know, that's why I said almost, yeah, almost 3 decades, 28 years. That's a lot. So I know there is a lot of information, a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience that we can tap into from you, especially for mothers who are aspiring to get to the top in their careers or their pursuit of their ambitions, where they see themselves, in the next couple of years. So I'm really honored to have you here, and I'm hoping we can get a lot from you today.
I'm honored to be here with you, Diana. Thank you.
That's great. So Abby, how I usually start, I typically go through your background as a child. I know sometimes it may feel weird to ask that, but I'm interested in knowing what childhood was like for young Abby. How was the parenting dynamic like in your home, and how did that shape you? How did that shape your future as an adult? If you can walk us through that piece of childhood.
Diana, I thought it was an interesting question and an interesting way to start when you shared that with me. But I can see where it makes sense. I grew up in Jamaica, and I lived on a military base for 18 years, all the way from I was born till I went to college. My father was a military officer. Next door was my uncle. He was a military officer. My aunt was next door. And I grew up in a very big family. It was 6 children, and my 2 grandmothers lived with us. And during that time, 70s, 80s, the term male chauvinism existed. I don't know if it still exists today, but it was like the woman's place is in the home, like the woman's place.
Yeah.
There was still opportunity, I think.
Okay.
And I was surrounded by that on this military base with this undercurrent that women were limited in their roles, but not with my mom and not with my grandmothers and not with my aunt. I was surrounded by these fierce women. My mom was a nurse, and she became a stay-at-home mom. And I can tell you, I think that's probably the hardest job in the world. And I saw what it took to raise a family of 6 children, always had visiting guests, and, it was really clear to me that I did not want to be a stay-at-home mom because it was such a hard job. But I was surrounded by these women who really told us we could do whatever we wanted. And my father eventually got on board, like my mom and her sisters and my grandma, he saw the wisdom of that. So I think that really helped to shape who I became. And the other thing that I saw was my aunt. She went back to law school when she became 60.
60?
She graduated top of her class, and when her husband was retiring, she was starting her career as a lawyer. And it just made me realize that it's never over, right? Sometimes you might delay some things, you might put some things on the shelf for a time, but it doesn't have to be over, right? So whatever that dream is that we have, doesn't matter how old we are in our life stages, we can still get it. So that was the backdrop of, do anything. I was already made for a technology world that was male dominated. Because I was living on this military base where they thought that women had a certain place. So over to America, I was already engineering with all the men, and it didn't mean that it wasn't difficult navigating that sometimes, but I wasn't new to that game. I saw it, and I already had an idea of what needed to happen, how to lead in a world where the men didn't see you as a leader, and how you had to show them that I'm here to remove roadblocks for you.
Wow, this is amazing. You're telling us about your background as having a military background, or growing up rather in a military base, actually puts things into a better perspective for us, because I have seen you leading like great teams and being in tech. You have lots of more men than you would find women, and you have been able to lead the way all like to the top, and you're telling us like it was nothing, because that was where you grew up. You grew up in a base where, like in the military base where men were doing things, and you pushed through. So it was nothing. It's really fascinating to know that piece of you.
I think I saw my father model leadership, and one of the things I always saw and I picked up was that he was very respected by his soldiers.
Okay.
They would come to him, and I always felt, and he always told us that a good leader takes care of his soldiers. And maybe without me knowing it, Diana, like I was channeling that part of my upbringing, knowing that as a leader, you are supposed to take care of the people on the team, whether they're soldiers, whether they're engineers, whether they're nurses, whoever is on your team. You take care of them.
Right.
And gender and race really has no place in that, right? Because when you're on the battlefield, nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's about surviving and thriving.
Yeah.
And now that you're asking me, I think maybe that informed some of my leadership style.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, we'll come into your leadership skills and some of the experiences you had as a leader. But I want us to still take it slowly and build it up. And thank you for sharing that your auntie at the age of 60 went back to law school and graduated on top of a class. That is so powerful. Wow.
So powerful, Diana.
Wow. So that means if you're a woman, or even not just a woman, but anybody at all, if you have a dream, you don't have to give up on your dream, because at any age, at any point in your life, you can still go after that dream. You can still go after that ambition. Wow. 60.
Diana, I think about it. I mean, in my example, it's not law school, but I remember when I went to college, I used to run track, and once I became a working mom, I really didn't know how to find time to exercise, to try to have those healthy habits. And it took me 13 years before I found the time. And maybe the kids were older, they were more self-sufficient, they were doing sports, I started doing sports along with them. But that to me was a reminder of, don't give up. Just keep, and don't judge yourself. Treat yourself with grace, because we're all in different places, right? We all have different situations, and they're not all the same. But just keep looking for that opportunity. And my daughter started running track in middle school, and they had a mom's race. And I was like, well, maybe this is my outlet, because I would just go to track practice with her and sit down. So I'm like, well, maybe I can work out while she's working out. And that's what I did. And there it was. 13 years later is when I really was able to start my healthy exercise routine again. So
wow.
Just don't give up. Maybe the timing isn't today.
Yeah.
But just keep looking for the
just keep looking for it, and just keep it up. Maybe write it somewhere on a vision board, and just keep it there, and don't give up. Wow,
13 years.
Wow. Thank you, Abby, for sharing that. I want to come to your beginnings in terms of your career. When you started your career, what was it like for you? I'm asking this question because sometimes when we start out as fresh graduates, coming out fresh from graduate and starting work, we may have our vision, like this is what we want to do,
Yeah.
or this is how we want to grow in the particular organization that we find ourselves. And for you who went all the way to the top to being a VP, global executive, I want to understand, did you really have any like well thought out plan for yourself that okay, like beginning, I'm starting, I want to become this, so these are the steps I'm going to take, all that, or did you just go with the flow?
My plan was to go to graduate school
Okay.
after college, but I didn't get into the ones that I wanted to.
Okay.
And Diana, when I started working at Bell Atlantic, I was actually already a wife and mother. I got pregnant my senior year of college, and my husband and I, we accelerated our wedding plans because we had planned to get married after college. We ended up getting married our senior year.
Okay.
And so by the time I started working, I was a working wife and mother.
Okay.
And to me, that was the goal. I just wanted to be an engineer. And it's a good profession, right?
Yeah.
To be an engineer.
Yeah.
And I was fine.
Yeah.
Being an engineer, there's so much to learn. There's so many different aspects of engineering. But somehow, somewhere during my first 5 years, I realized that I liked leadership.
Okay.
And I decided that I wanted to, instead of critiquing and complaining, I was like, why don't you jump in there, Miss Missy? If you think it's that easy, why don't you become a manager and see if you can make a difference?
Okay.
And right around that time, I also went to do my master's. And when I did that master's in information and telecom systems, that's when there was a lot more around leadership and business and management. And I was like, I really like this stuff.
Okay.
But even then, I didn't make a goal to say I wanted to be a VP or wanted to be an executive. I just wanted to be a leader who helped people unlock their full potential. That's really what it was.
That's
So
beautiful.
I became a manager, and then I was happy being a manager. And then each time I would make a goal and say, okay, well, maybe I want to go to the next level. And then I got to that, and then it was like, okay, maybe I want to go to the next level. So I didn't start out with these, aspirations to be senior executive.
Okay.
It came over time.
It came over time. Wow. And your passion for wanting to be a leader also stemmed from the fact that you had a father who wasn't like that, who modeled leadership for you. So without even realizing, like you mentioned, you probably might have picked up on that.
I think I did, Diana, because I used to go to work with him sometimes.
Okay.
And I would go in the office and, maybe through osmosis, just by being surrounded by seeing and hear. I can't even pick out like specific scenarios, but I just knew that I saw it.
Yeah. Wow, that's really great. I want to come into you going navigating career and motherhood. So you mentioned that you started working as a mother already, like from college. I'm just kind of trying to put myself in that situation where you're trying to graduate from school and then you find out you're pregnant and then you're like, okay, baby, college, I need to finish this thing and trying to get married in between and kind of juggling all of that and then starting work and getting into like your master's degree also. How was it like? Because when you have a toddler or when you have like young ones and you are also trying to get your career going, it can be challenging. So how did young Abby at the time manage to navigate all of that and still get yourself, growing into a leadership role while having kids?
So when I started, I had my first daughter, and then I decided to go do my master's. She was like 2 years old, and I remember feeling like, is this a good idea? I was feeling really guilty. And there's another lady who was doing her master's, and her daughter was 13 or a teenager. And she said, you know what, Abby, you are so lucky. I'm like, I don't understand what you mean by that. She said, my daughter knows that I'm missing. I'm missing her volleyball games. I'm missing all these different activities because I'm here in school. She's like, your daughter is a baby. She won't even notice. She won't even know you're gone. So while I carried the guilt, because my husband, he was working, but he also took care of her while I went to school. And he was really, really supportive of me. Always been, Diana. And I always think how blessed I am to have someone who maybe he saw more for me than I saw for myself. He never said that, but he was always pushing me, like always supporting me if I went up to school. He did that. And when I had other jobs that had to travel, he was always supportive. He was always holding down the fort. And so I think that was something I learned early on, is this mom guilt that we carry. Luckily, I had people around me who supported me. And that's, I think, important. That's really important, being a mom, in a working mom, is having a village of people. We had one family that was our adopted family in America, because he's from the Bahamas, I'm from Jamaica, and they kind of took us in, and they would babysit sometimes. And then we had each other. That was it. But we cannot do everything by ourselves. And I really think it takes a village, whether it's picking the right person to be a mate, or surrounding yourself with other people who would support you. I remember I was walking to class to do my master's with another lady from work. She was in her 40s. So she was her kids were already grown, and so she would mentor me, and help me and give me advice. And I was really lucky at the time in Bell Atlantic to be surrounded by a group of older women. All their kids were already grown, and they would, without even know it, I felt like I was in this incubator where I was protected and I was poured into by them as well. So there was this village at work, there was this village at home, and I was kind of just surrounded by support. And that made a huge difference. And the message to any woman who's listening, who you've been through your career and you have older kids, the young moms, they need your support. They need your advocacy. They need your mentorship. They just need that wall of support that makes them know you can do it. Because they struggle too. But some of them used to be single moms or working moms or married and navigating all of that. And I remember shout out to my Pratt Street mentors, the women who supported me and didn't know that they were. I didn't even know the value of what they poured into me until much later.
Wow. This is a very, very, you've really touched on key topics that are, I'd like to take my time in and unpack. So the first one was, your husband seeing more than you could even see for yourself, and him pushing you, to go to the next level, and he also being actively involved in supporting you in terms of watching the kids sometimes, so that you can also do what you have to do. That is very, very important, because like you mentioned from the beginning, there was a time when it used to be like, okay, a woman's place, is this, and a woman's place is the home. But now it's interesting to know we have more men who are understanding the whole dynamic of it takes two, it takes a village, it takes all of us to make this work. And finding men like that really goes a long way to help women also become what they've always aspired to become. That is really great. And then also you touched on having a village around you, so other women or other families who came in to support you, and that is beautiful, because sometimes you can't do it. Not even sometimes you can't do it on your own. You can't, whether you are a single parent or
Not forever.
not forever.
Pieces by yourself. There are times when you might be on your own and you have to, but look around.
Look
you know,
around.
and embrace and ask for help.
Wow. That is great. Thank you for sharing. You touched on having mentors at work. I want to come into that. Role models and mentors at work. In your like in navigating career, motherhood at work, who would you say were your role models, and how did they strategically or specifically pour into you in a way that shaped you and helped you grow in your career the way you had it?
I can think of many role models, Diana, but I'll pick one set, and this was I had some mentors at work that were female executives. Verizon and Bell Atlantic, I think, had done a much better job of advancing women. My senior vice president was a female,
Okay.
and I had VPs who were female. So I had a chance to see that, and I also had a chance to be mentored by several of the women and really learned that it's possible, to be a successful female in a male-dominated world. But one of the things for me, so in our family model, at some point when we had relocated, moved states, my husband had his own business, and when we moved, the business didn't move very well, and we decided, and right around that time, my job started requiring me to do more travel.
Okay.
And we decided that he would be a stay-at-home dad. He said he was okay with being a stay-at-home dad. I was okay with it, but in the Black community, it was not widely accepted. Like it was the reverse, right?
Yeah,
Like the man
yeah.
was supposed to work and the woman stays home, and here it was, he was staying home, and he was very good. He cooked, he took care of the girls. I still had to do the hair, okay? He never got the hair right, but that was, and there was a bit of like we didn't talk about it much,
Yeah.
but as I got mentored by women in corporate America, I found out that a lot of women, executive women, also had stay-at-home dads, like men who, gave up their career,
Okay.
and that was the choice that they made.
They
So
made.
that was so freeing that it wasn't as foreign, it wasn't as, less desirable
Yeah.
as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And that kind of mentorship and that seeing that was a very successful model to pattern
Mm-hmm.
was really helpful for me in terms of role model.
Wow.
Because that was the path we chose, and I didn't know if it would be accepted. or not.
Accepted.
It turned out that it was normal.
It was. I think at the end of the day, it boils down to the couple, like two of you. What works for the family?
Yes.
What works for the family? Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to figure that out, Diana. And then, there were some people who it was a lot of negative energy, and we had to like remove ourselves. And some of it was family members that we had to just kind of distance ourselves from until we got fine with our model, right? So whatever your model is as a mom, if you're a single mom, married mom, divorced mom, widowed mom, there's so many different moms, right? Whatever your model is, sometimes you got to surround yourself with the people who are going to bolster you while you build that foundation that you're good with. And then you can slowly let the naysayers back in if you want
If
to.
you want
right?
to. If you want
But
to.
you've got to your point, you've got to find out what works for you. And it worked. I think it worked really well for us. My husband did an amazing job doing a lot of the parenting of our two daughters who are now adults, and doing really well.
Wow, wow. You touched on a very critical point where you said if you find naysayers and negative energy around you, you have to make the effort to either remove yourself from that situation or drop them, and surround yourself with, the positive ones, the people that help you build your foundation. That's very important, because there's something called the power of association, and whether you like it or not, the people you surround yourself with, they influence you. And sometimes when you're a mom, you're trying so hard to get yourself, to the next big level while still taking care of your children. You really don't want negative energy. You really don't want people who will pull you down, and people who will tell you stuff that, oh, you can't do this, oh, what do you think, but you want the positive one. So you have to be intentional about selecting the people that you put around you. That is a beautiful piece. Wow, wow, wow. And you mentioned something about your husband supporting the kids and all that. I want to jump into men supporting women in general. I want to pick your brain on what you would like to tell women, because I have interviewed quite a number of moms, and they tell me, for some that the ones who are married, they tell me they swear by their husbands that I got this, I got a very supportive husband who pushed me and all that. But then there are also, like you mentioned, there are also single moms and widowed moms, and every different stories. How, but I'm just trying to think that either ways, whether you're married or not married, and then you're still a mom, you're surrounded by men, one way or the other. So for the men who are listening, what would your advice be for them in terms of, providing support to the women the women in their lives, or the women that they find themselves with?
I would say, whether they like it or not, the moms in their life are carrying a guilt that most are. I don't want to stereotype. I'm not selected to speak for all moms, but I hear so many of us, like we're torn between wanting a career and wanting to be the best mom and being there for our children.
Yeah.
So this feeling of being torn, maybe I should say it that way,
Yeah.
is something that I think that a lot of moms have, that there are dads that might be torn that way as well,
Yeah.
but the societal pressure on mothers is a lot greater than the societal pressure on fathers.
Yeah.
Some men might argue with me on that, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'll just state it that way. And so please remember that the women who are moms on your team are constantly they're constantly calculating. Constantly. Like, I'm always calculating. How can I give more at work? And how can I give more at home? And it is draining. It is taxing. It is an energy tax. Right, Diana? So to the men who are the husbands or the partners supporting, just keep looking for ways to support. Even by you asking, what do you need me to do? That's a tax. Don't ask. Just look around. There's a lot of stuff. There's clothes to be washed. There's clothes to be folded. There's dishes to be washed. There's meals to be prepped. There's, stuff to be bought from the supermarket. Just look around and just do, That would be and then ask, what else can I support you with? Because a lot of times as women, we're not asking because we have to slow down to tell you and teach you and explain. So sometimes you have to make us sit down and slow down a little bit so that you can learn it, so that you can take over that responsibility. And women, you have to let them learn it, right? You have to let them learn it. And then to the men at work who are the bosses and the co-workers, just remember that, especially to the bosses. If you have a working mom on your team, I don't want to call it extra, what's the word? Like doing extra things just because.
Just because. Just because.
Just because she's a woman, I have to do these extra things. However, there is potential and innovation and performance that you can unlock if you figure out how to support your employee who's a working mom. Just like how do you support an ambitious employee, whether that employee is male or female? How do you support someone who wants to climb the ladder more quickly than someone who wants to go deeper into technology? Every employee is different. Every employee has different fabric. And so the best manager and leader customizes the development and support for that employee. So if you're a manager and leader and you're trying to just cookie cutter manage everybody the same way, you're not going to get the most out of your team. But if you can work with each individual to unlock their full potential, and part of that for working moms is unlocking where they are, what support do they need. And I remember, Diana, I had my second baby, and we didn't have like a remote working policy at the time, but I had a boss. I actually had to say to him, look, I want a nurse, and I really need a place to pump milk, and I don't know how, but I really would like to work from home. And you know what he did? He allowed me to work from home 2 days a week. There was no policy. He probably wasn't supposed to let me work from home.
Yeah.
And he found a closet. It wasn't even like a wellness room with a fridge and, you know, this nice stuff. It was a lot of boxes. It was dusty, but it was private. There was a door, I could lock it, and I could use the pump, and I could pump milk. And I was able to nurse my daughter for 7 months, right? And that manager, he unlocked like I went out of my way to make sure that whatever project he was working on, anything that I touched, I was going to do my best because he went out of his way to support me. So that's what I mean. You know, like how do you help your working mom on your team unlock her biggest potential and performance? Because guess what? The team is going to benefit, but she's also going to feel so good.
Wow, you unlock the potential of a working mom when you give her all the support she needs. This is such a powerful statement. I hope you're learning something from Abby's story. We are taking a break here. We'll bring you a part 2 of our conversation with Abby Knowles on Sunday, January 5th, 2025 in episode 14. We will cover some of her career setbacks and successes. We also look at the power of sisterhood, giving back, self-care, mentorship, and many more. Be sure not to miss it. If you made it this far, we want to say thank you. And if you enjoyed the episode, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. If you are yet to follow us on all other social media platforms, please do so. You find us on Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn at The Daring Mom. And on Instagram, you find us at @The Daring Mom. If you want to follow Abby, you can find her on LinkedIn at Abby Knowles. You'll find a link to her page in the description of this video. Thank you all for joining us today. And as we wrap up, my question to you is, what is your hashtag, The Daring Mom story? Join me and let's do this together. My name is Diana Ade, and I am The Daring Mom.